Welcome, explorer, to the third chapter of our journey through ancient Sumer. In our previous episodes, we uncovered the dawn of civilization and the mysteries of the Anunnaki and the Sumerian gods. Now, let's open the doors to daily life, knowledge, invention, and the fascinating realities that shaped the first great cities of humanity, always under the watchful gaze of the Anunnaki. Imagine the bustling streets of Uruk or Ur at sunrise. The air is filled with the calls of merchants, the steps of laborers, and the rhythmic sound of chisels shaping clay bricks. Here, every stone and every tool tells a story of innovation and adaptation. The Sumerians were not only dreamers of myths, they were builders, engineers, and thinkers. Their cities rose from the mud of the rivers, protected by walls and adorned with gardens, temples, and markets. One of the most remarkable Sumerian inventions was writing. Cuneiform script, etched into clay tablets with a reed stylus, revolutionized record-keeping and communication. Thanks to this technology, the Sumerians could track harvests, trade goods, record myths, and pass knowledge from one generation to the next. Thousands of these tablets have survived, giving us a window into their world. Contracts, recipes, hymns, school lessons, and even jokes. Schools, known as idubas, flourished in Sumerian cities. Young boys, sometimes girls, spent their days learning to read and write, practicing cuneiform symbols and memorizing proverbs. Education was highly valued, and a skilled scribe enjoyed great status, often working for temples and palaces or managing trade and administration. The Sumerians were also advanced mathematicians. They developed a base 60 sexagesimal system, which we still use today to measure time and angles. They calculated areas for farming, built precise irrigation canals, and even created early forms of geometry and algebra. Their innovations laid the foundation for much of the science that would follow in later civilizations. Astronomy was another area where the Sumerians excelled. Priests and scholars observed the stars and planets from temple rooftops, recording celestial movements and interpreting them as messages from the gods. The Sumerians were among the first to chart the paths of Venus, Jupiter, and Mercury, creating lunar calendars that guided agriculture and religious festivals. For them, the heavens were not distant. They were part of a living, divine order governed by the Anunnaki. Religion permeated every aspect of Sumerian life. Each city was dedicated to a patron god or goddess, with grand ziggurats serving as both temples and symbols of divine connection. Rituals, sacrifices, and festivals honored the deities and sought their favor for bountiful harvests, protection, and harmony. The Anunnaki, as the great assembly of gods, were invoked in prayers and feared in times of crisis. They were thought to shape the fate of all people. Sumerian society was complex and layered. At the top stood the king, believed to be chosen by the gods and responsible for upholding justice and order. Below him were priests, officials, and wealthy merchants who managed the affairs of the city. Artisans, farmers, and laborers formed the backbone of society, producing the food, goods, and services that kept the cities thriving. Women could own property, run businesses, and serve as priestesses, an unusual degree of freedom for the ancient world. Daily life in Sumer was a mix of hard work and celebration. People rose early to tend fields, herd animals, or craft pottery and tools. Markets bustled with traders selling grain, textiles, beer, and jewelry. Music, poetry, and storytelling enlivened public gatherings and religious ceremonies. Board games like the royal game of Ur provided entertainment, while athletes competed in wrestling and other sports at festivals. Sumerian homes were typically built from sun-dried bricks, with courtyards, gardens, and small shrines to household gods. Meals included bread, fish, dates, onions, and beer. Families gathered in the evenings to share stories and sing hymns, passing on traditions and values. Medicine in Sumer blended practical remedies with religious rituals. Healers prescribed herbs, performed minor surgeries, and recited incantations to banish illness-causing spirits. Medical texts reveal a surprising level of anatomical knowledge, as well as a belief in the influence of the gods and demons on health. Art and craftsmanship flourished in Sumer. Sculptors created statues of gods and rulers. Potters produced finely decorated vessels, and jewelers worked with gold, silver, and lapis lazuli. Cylinder seals, tiny carved stones used to stamp images on clay, were both functional and beautiful, depicting scenes of worship, feasting, and myth that reflected the richness of Sumerian culture. Trade connected Sumer to distant lands. Merchants traveled by river and caravan, bringing back copper from Oman, timber from Lebanon, and precious stones from the Indus Valley. This exchange of goods also meant an exchange of ideas, technologies, and stories, enriching Sumerian life and spreading their influence far beyond Mesopotamia. Despite their achievements, the Sumerians faced constant challenges. The rivers that gave life could also bring devastating floods. Droughts, crop failures, and conflicts with neighboring cities tested their resilience. Yet through it all, the Sumerians looked to the Anunnaki for guidance, seeking to understand their place in the universe and maintain the delicate balance between order and chaos. Festivals were a highlight of the Sumerian year. The New Year festival, Akitu, was a time of renewal and hope. Citizens gathered for processions, music, and rituals that symbolically reenacted the creation of the world and the reaffirmation of the king's divine mandate. Offerings were made to the gods, and prayers were recited for peace, prosperity, and the favor of the Anunnaki. The Sumerians believed that their achievements were gifts from the gods. Writing, farming, law, and art were all seen as divine blessings. In their myths, the Anunnaki taught humans how to build cities, irrigate fields, and live together in harmony. But these same gods could also bring disaster if angered, reminding the people that their prosperity depended on respect and reverence for the divine. As centuries passed, Sumerian culture continued to evolve. New inventions and ideas spread throughout the region, influencing neighboring peoples and laying the groundwork for future empires. The legacy of Sumer can be seen in the achievements of the Babylonians, Assyrians, and Persians, who built upon Sumerian foundations and carried the stories of the Anunnaki into new eras. Excavations of Sumerian sites have uncovered treasures that deepen our understanding of this remarkable civilization. Tablets inscribed with laws, hymns, and epic tales, jewelry and tools buried with kings and queens, the remains of ziggurats and palaces, all bear witness to a society that was both practical and visionary, rooted in tradition yet open to innovation. The myths of the Anunnaki continue to inspire wonder. Were they simply personifications of natural forces, memories of ancient rulers, or was something more mysterious? Modern theories abound, from ancient astronauts to lost wisdom. But the true power of these stories lies in their ability to connect us to the hopes, fears, and dreams of our distant ancestors. Let us now venture deeper into the everyday experiences and the extraordinary achievements of the Sumerians, immersing ourselves in the vibrant life that once filled these ancient cities. Imagine yourself walking along the bustling avenues of Ur or Eridu. The sound of craftsmen hammering copper, the aroma of freshly baked barley bread, the laughter of children playing in the courtyards, and the rhythmic chanting of priests rising from the towering ziggurat. All these elements combine to create a society both grounded in routine and alive with ritual. Education was a cornerstone of Sumerian culture. The famed Adaba, or tablet house, was the world's first known school. Here, young students, mostly boys but sometimes girls from wealthier families, would gather before sunrise. Their days were long and strict, filled with repetitive exercises to master the hundreds of cuneiform signs. Teachers, known for their severity, demanded precision and discipline. Students learned not only to read and write, but also to calculate taxes, interpret legal codes, and recite proverbs considered essential for a moral life. Graduation from the Adaba was a mark of prestige. opening doors to careers as scribes, accountants, temple administrators, and even advisors to royalty. Law and justice were also advanced for their time. The Sumerians recorded some of the earliest known legal codes, including the famous laws of Uar-Nammu. These codes, inscribed on clay tablets, addressed issues of property, marriage, theft, debt, and personal injury. Justice was seen as a divine mandate. The king, as the agent of the gods, was responsible for maintaining order and fairness. Trials took place in public squares, with panels of elders or priests acting as judges. The principle of an eye for an eye was present, but so eram penis alternativas, como multas e restitutos. The aim was not only punishment, but restoration of harmony within the community. Architecture in Sumer stood as a testament to human ambition and ingenuity. The great ziggurats rose high above the flat plains, their mud brick terraces painted in vibrant colors. These step pyramids were not only religious centers, but also landmarks visible for miles, symbols of the city's wealth and piety. Temples, palaces, and administrative buildings displayed columns, mosaics, and intricate carvings. Even the common homes, often built around a central courtyard, were designed to provide cool shade in the scorching summers and warmth during chilly winters. The Sumerians were passionate about festivals and the changing of the seasons. The New Year festival, Akitu, was a time of immense excitement and hope. For days, the city would be filled with music, processions, theatrical performances, and feasting. Statues of the gods were paraded through the streets. Citizens wore their finest clothes, and everyone, from the king to the humblest farmer, participated in rituals meant to renew the covenant between humans and the Anunnaki. Children sang songs, dancers performed stories of creation and heroism, and the air shimmered with the expectation of divine blessing. Even in their private lives, the Sumerians sought beauty and meaning. Women adorned themselves with jewelry made of gold, silver, lapis lazuli, and carnelian. Men wore finely woven garments and styled their hair and beards. Perfumes, made from local herbs and imported resins, scented the air at banquets and ceremonies. In their leisure time, families played board games, told stories of ancient heroes, and listened to musicians play lyres and harps. The Sumerians were also accomplished healers and magicians. Medical texts reveal their knowledge of anatomy, herbal remedies, and surgical procedures. Priests and priestesses performed rituals to appease the spirits believed to cause illness, while healers prescribed poultices, teas, and even minor surgeries. Amulets, inscribed with protective spells, were worn by people of all ages to ward off evil and ensure good fortune. Curiosity and exploration were valued traits. Merchants and diplomats journeyed to distant lands, returning with tales of strange peoples, exotic goods, and new ideas. The Sumerians mapped the stars, named constellations, and tracked the cycles of the moon and planets with a sophistication that still surprises scholars today. They believed the heavens were alive with signs from the Anunnaki, and every eclipse or bright comet was interpreted as a message or warning. Archaeological discoveries have only deepened the wonder surrounding Sumer. The royal tombs of Uar, for example, revealed treasures that rival those of Egypt or any other ancient civilization. Golden headdresses, intricately carved lyres, gaming boards inlaid with shell and lapis lazuli, and even the remains of elaborate feasts laid out for the afterlife. The scope and artistry of these discoveries remind us of the wealth, creativity, and belief in the supernatural that defined Sumerian society. Daily life, however, was not without hardship. Floods, droughts, and warfare threatened the stability of the city-states. The rivers could be both a blessing and a curse. Walls and canals needed constant repair, and disputes over water rights sometimes erupted in a conflict. Yet, the Sumerians persevered, adapting to adversity with resilience rooted in community and faith. The role of the Anunnaki remained central. Every harvest, every victory, every invention was attributed to their favor. When disaster struck, It was seen as a sign of divine displeasure, prompting acts of repentance and renewed devotion. Oracles and dream interpreters held important positions, offering guidance believed to come from the gods themselves. The people of Sumer lived with a sense of the sacred woven through every aspect of existence. Let's not forget the stories mothers told their children as dusk settled over the rooftops. Tales of Gilgamesh and Enkidu, of the beautiful Inanna descending to the underworld, of the wise Enki outsmarting disaster, and of the mighty Anunnaki who watched over the world from their celestial thrones. These stories were more than entertainment. They were lessons, reminders of courage, humility, and the need for balance between ambition and respect for the divine. The Sumerians also loved riddles, proverbs, and wisdom literature. The one who would climb the ladder must begin at the bottom, they said. Do not neglect your friend, for friendship is the road to happiness. Their writings contain advice as relevant today as it was 5,000 years ago, a testament to the enduring nature of human experience. The city-states of Sumer, though often rivals, sometimes joined forces for great projects, building canals, defending against external threats, or celebrating major religious festivals. Shared culture, language, and faith bound them together, even as competition for resources and power sometimes led to conflict. As night fell, the city walls glowed with torchlight. Scribes finished their work. Children drifted to sleep to the lullaby of ancient hymns, and priests climbed the ziggurat steps to gaze at the stars. For the Sumerians, every moment was touched by the divine, a world where the mysteries of the Anunnaki were as real as the rivers, the sun, and the beating of their own hearts. The legacy of Sumer is not just in its ruins and relics, but in its spirit of curiosity, creativity, and reverence for the unknown. Even today, as archaeologists unearth new wonders and scholars translate ancient texts, the voice of Sumer whispers through time, inviting us to imagine, to learn, and to seek meaning in the stories of those who came before us. As we close this episode, remember that the story of Sumer is a story of beginnings, of cities, of writing, of law, and of humanity's first questions about the universe and our place within it. The Anunnaki, whether seen as gods, myths, or symbols of human aspiration, remain at the heart of that story. In our next and final chapter, we will witness the transformation of Sumer as new powers rise, explore the mysterious twilight of the Anunnaki, and uncover the echoes of their myths in the civilizations that followed. Thank you for joining us on this remarkable journey through ancient Mesopotamia. Don't forget to subscribe and share. There are still many secrets to be revealed.